crazy news from Russia. The news that matter and that you will not find in any mainstream media. I give them to you every weekend, and this is week 27 in review. Snow in Russia in the middle of July. Islamic banking is on the rise in Russia. Indian Prime Minister visits Putin. More convictions of Russian generals and the suspicious deaths. Fewer Russians can afford cars now, and even the Chinese cars become rarity. Sell Your Friend for a Coin program is introduced by Russia's Ministry of Defense, and Russian books might become orphaned soon. And the biggest news of the week is food price control is introduced in Western Russia. Finally, what took them so long? Howdy, howdy, friends. My name is Konstantin, and welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. Welcome to Weekly News Update. I give you crazy news straight out of the mad circus that Russia has become. But first things first, there is no such absurdity that could not be realized in Russia these days. Please remember that. In the news, I call them crazy news from Russia. The news of Russia that matter and that you will not find in any media. And they get crazier and crazier. But I'd like to start with fresh Putin's joke as usual. Russian president dies and goes to heaven. There are two doors, big signs, heaven and hell. Obviously, he knocks on heaven's door. St. Peter opens a small window and looks at him and asks, "May I help you?" "Well, looks like I died and here I am." St. Peter looks puzzled and asks, why did you knock on heaven's door?" And the president says, "Well, what do you mean, why? I'm a great guy. I did so much good for Russia. I liberated Ukraine from the Nazis, did so much good for the people. Just look at the amount of money I donated to charities and gave to all kinds of families." St. Peter goes, "Okay, just give me a few minutes to check. You can sit on the bench right over there." And the president goes and sits on the bench, waits for a few minutes, and St. Peter opens the small window again and says, "Look, Mr. President, I have two news for you. One is bad and one is good. I'll start with the bad news. You knocked on the wrong door. But there's a good news too. We will immediately refund all the money that you spent on all the charities." And now straight to the news. Let me start with the news from Mother Nature. Mother Nature herself. Again, it looks like lately I start every news update with that. This time it's not from Moscow, it's from the city of Omsk. It's, far to the east of Moscow. Check this out. Mid-July, snow on the ground was reported, large hail, hurricane-like gusts of wind. I seriously think that we will see water turning blood and rivers in the country and the locust coming after. The next news is sad, very sad. The last time it happened, I was 8 years old. For the first time in 40 years, the Olympics will not be televised in Russia for political reasons. The Olympics will begin on July 26 in Paris, and that's the event that everyone has been waiting for, and some Russian athletes will compete only under a neutral flag, and such athletes are treated very harshly in Russia. They're called rats, traitors, etc. The last time Olympic Games in Russia were not televised on TV was not shown on TV, was about 40 years ago when the USSR boycotted the 1984 games in Los Angeles. You know, the stink of the USSR is back. Obviously, it's the same, and the country is going back into the USSR, only it's already there. It's not even going, it's there. I have one question, a mystery, really. Why in the world Russian people want to go back to the USSR? What was good in the USSR that so many people willing to go back? Mystery question, I cannot answer it myself. Another news is both interesting and innovative. About a year ago, I told you in a news report, just like this one, that Russia was launching an experiment with Islamic banking. In particular, they were going to start an Islamic mortgage program. I am publishing an extract from the fatwa, which is a conclusion of a Sharia scholar, posted on Sberbank's website regarding the so-called Islamic mortgage. Check this out. Let me translate what it says. With this document, we officially confirm that the structure of the product. Let me just move it up a little bit. The structure of this product, Mortgage Murabaha, complies with the Sharia law, subject to strict Sharia governance, verification, and auditing mechanisms implemented and approved by the Sharia Advisory Council. This fatwa is valid subject to a periodic Sharia audit and verification process, as determined by the Sharia Advisory Council. And the Allah Almighty knows best. You know, perhaps this is how legal contracts in Russia should be ending from now on, and Allah Almighty knows best. Folks, I don't really know how to comment it. That rarely happens. Yes, I am shocked and puzzled. That's Russia's biggest and oldest bank, called Sberbank. I don't know how to comment. I couldn't believe what I saw at first. I fact-checked. Yeah, it's true, Well, its particular program is happening in a republic of Russia called Tatarstan. So please let me know what you think in the comments below. I appreciate the feedback. This time I have nothing to say. Another news comes from the Kremlin. Vladimir Putin and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi they both met at the residence in Nova Ogareva. That's the official residence of Russian president. Check this out. Meeting like good friends.
आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी, परम दोस्त, आपका स्वागत है, हार्दिक स्वागत है। आपको देखने से मुझे बड़ी खुशी है।
Официальные разговоры у нас состоятся завтра. Это официальная резиденция, где я живу.
That's a rare look into Vladimir Putin's life behind very tall walls, so to speak. He's got stables. Nice. Paid by the taxpayers. Well, the official word from the Kremlin, the leaders of both countries discussed issues of bilateral relations and world problems, drank tea, rode an electric car, and walked around the stables. Drank tea, rode an electric car, and walked around the stables. Yeah, right. That's what they're trying to make us believe. Whatever they talked about was not what the official propaganda in Russia is saying. The main topic for Putin to discuss most likely was Russia's frozen funds in India, payments for Russian oil that were made in rupees, and Russia cannot take them out of India. And perhaps, just perhaps, this is I'm guessing, wild guess, Modi was being used as a courier and delivered a message to Putin from, perhaps the big boys? We'll find soon enough. I will keep you posted. You can count on that. The next news comes from Russia's National Guards. The deputy commander of Rosgvardia of the Central Region, Major General Vadim Dragomiretsky, this is the guy, was sentenced to 9.5 years in a high-security prison. He was sentenced to, his crime was taking a bribe of 19 million rubles, and that's around $300,000 at the time of the crime was committed. Dragomiretsky served as the head of the procurement and supply in the central Orsha-Khingan Red Banner district of Russian National Guard troops. According to the investigators, he cheated the state by taking kickbacks for awarding contracts for the repair of buildings on the territory of his unit. The Major General pleaded partially guilty. He said that he had indeed received money from a subordinate, but it was a bribe for the higher-ups. Interesting. On July 10th, the Ryazov Garrison Military Court found Vadim Dragomiretsky guilty, stripped him of his rank and all honors, medals, sentenced him to 9.5 years in high-security prison. No higher-ups of the Major General were harmed in the process. Imagine what kind of scum serves as generals in Rosgvardia. And speaking of generals, this past week, a businessman named Igor Kotelnikov died in a disciplinary cell of the pretrial detention center number 4 in Moscow under very suspicious circumstances. And now, Kotelnikov was not your ordinary guy. He was a major intermediary who, through the top leadership of the Ministry of Defense, organized state contracts. In business circles in Moscow, he was known as the man who, for a few coins, could arrange lucrative and large contracts through the Ministry of Defense. Man, I'm pretty sure that they were just rumors. He was an honest guy. The KGB arrested Kotelnikov, demanded testimony against former Deputy Defense Minister Timur Ivanov. Remember that guy? Kotelnikov refused to testify. Then the pressure from the administration of this pretrial detention center came into play. He was sent to disciplinary cell where he became ill. After 2 days there, doctors concluded that due to chronic disease, Kotelnikov could not be kept in a disciplinary cell. He was transferred back to a regular cell, but for some odd reason, almost immediately they sent him back to the disciplinary cell, where the air temperature was said to be about 40 degrees Celsius or about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And they left him there for the night. When they came back in the morning, his corpse was found. A quick investigation was performed, and it was announced that death happened due to a blood clot. Now, in some places outside Russia, that would be considered a murder. But in Russian prison, it's called death of natural causes. And former Deputy Minister of Defense allegedly worth $62 billion. Timur Ivanov's name is attracting more and more troubles now. I wonder if something might happen to Timur Ivanov himself next. You know what? I wonder. Can he take all that money with him? Moving on to the economic news. Last Friday, I told you that real estate apartments and houses in Russia have become, for the most part, unaffordable to regular people. An average Russian can afford only 6 square meters, around 60 square feet, of an apartment to buy. That's not much. You can't even sleep on that. But if you think it's bad, wait until the next news. Not only apartments, but also cars. Cars are becoming less and less accessible, affordable to Russians. The affordability of cars in Russia has decreased to the historical minimum, as calculated by the experts of an organization called Russian Car Dealers Association. To save up to buy a new car, an average Russian now needs to work for almost 3.5 years without spending for anything else, anything. I mean, not one single kopeck. They're just saving everything. Granted, inflation stays the same as it is now. Of course, it won't. With an average salary of about 80,000 rubles, and that's on the higher end, if you know what I mean. So, or $965 per month. An average car costs 3.3 million rubles. That's around $40,000. It turns out that the car is priced of more than 41 monthly salaries. The affordability of new cars is at an all-time low. It's a record. And that it's affecting sales, says Alexei Podshikoldin. What quite a name that guy has. Podshikoldin, the president of the Dealer Association. In 2014, less than 30 average salaries were required to buy an average car. Now, 10 years later, 41 salaries. Used cars are still more affordable, but now you also need to save for them much longer, according to Podshikoldin. 10 years ago, 11 average salaries were enough to buy a used car, and now 17 salaries are required to buy a used car. Moreover, it also has become more difficult to buy a car with a bank loan. If in 2019 the average car loan payment was 42% of the average monthly salary, now in 2024 a Russian must pay 63% of his or her average monthly salary to pay off car loan. You know, many ask me, Konstantin, how exactly Russian economy is changing? What is that economic tsunami you're talking about? What are the signs that the economy is not doing well? Well, this is it. Looking at how living standards are rapidly falling, car is a necessity. 30 weeks back then and 30 months back then and 41 months now. Pay 42% of your monthly salary to pay off car loan back then and 63% now. And it's increasing. And this is Russia today. And this is what I mean. Economy it's not doing well whatsoever. The living standard is dropping. And regular Russian people, they are feeling the heat. And for the second time today, I say it smells like the USSR. Back in the day, in the old days, my father earned monthly salary of about 200 rubles, Soviet rubles. A Soviet car, Moskvich, for example, a car like this, cost around 10,000 rubles to buy. And there was a 10-year wait. Yes, Ronald Reagan was spot on in that old anecdote. So my dad had to save every single kopeck he made for 120 months. And it was simply unaffordable. Very few people had cars in the USSR. And the same thing is in Russia now. It's becoming simply unaffordable. Two different countries, but one very same smell. Again, folks, I have no clue why people want to go to the USSR so bad. Beats me. The old country was not good. Well, let's move on. Let's move to the Russia's region of North Caucasus. A very interesting event happened. Food for thought, definitely. Parents of 9th graders from the city of Nalchik have been fined for refusing to stand up to listen the Russian national anthem at their children's inauguration. There were some children sitting, younger siblings of those who were graduating, and they covered their ears with their hands not to listen to Russian anthem when it was playing. Now, I'm gonna, show the video to you, but I'm gonna put the sound off because if I turn the sound on, YouTube is going to hit me for copyright strike. So I'm gonna sing Russian anthem myself for you. Basically, in this video, if I turn on the music, there will be Russian anthem playing. So here it is. Pa-bum, pum, pa-bum, pum, pa-bum, pum, pa-bum, pa-bum, pum, pa-bum, pum, pa-bum, pum, pa-bum, pa-bum, pum, pa-bum. So, you saw it. Among the 8 adults who did not stand up during the anthem at school number 33 were, no, that's not your usual Russians. The head of Rusgidro Energy, it's a very large energy company, the wife of the head coach of Russian national judo team, the wife of a large local real estate developer, as well as quite a few mothers with many children who receive hefty social benefits from the state. Obviously, their behavior was noted. Someone filmed. They all were filmed, and it's made splashes in all over Russia, but not in the official propaganda media. Never made it to the official media. Some might find it small news. I mean, what's the big deal? Playing Russian anthem at school, they did not stand up. But I find it very important. And you see, all those not standing up and insulting Russian anthem are pretty important, rich people of very high caliber at Karachaevo-Cherkessia. That's a province in the North Caucasus. They all support the war in Ukraine. They support President Putin. They have Putin's pictures in their offices. They support the United Russia political party. But that all support is on paper. Their real attitude is seen on this film. Check it out again. You see this big shot people, they're sitting and their children covering up their ears with hands, not to listen to that. Well, small children can't really fake their behavior, can they? That gives me food for thought and proves once more that Russia is like a power keg. And sooner or later, it'll blow up. When people like those who did not stand up in Karachaevo-Cherkessia or in other provinces, they will decide that it is the right time to start governing themselves. You see, many have already disassociated themselves with Russia and its symbols. And Karacháyevo-Cherkessia is not the only one. And that's something to think about, right? Well, at least I find it very important. Now, folks, before moving to the next news, I want to thank you. Those of you who bought me coffees at buymeacoffee.com, your support shows that you value my work highly, and just know that that inspires me a lot and gives me energy to move forward, gives me very positive feedback. So thank you, thank you, thank you. The next news, I want you to meet someone. This is Alexander Tumakov. In 2012, he was convicted of petty theft, petty crime. In 2016, Tumakov was sentenced to 10 years and 10 months in a high-security prison for several serious crimes committed at once, including robbery, destruction of other people's property, and murder of a minor or other helpless person for selfish motives. Yes, he killed a child in cold blood while attempting a robbery. Alexander Tumakov was serving his sentence when Yevgeny Prigozhin started recruiting people into his private army called ЧВК Wagner, and he was recruiting from prisons. Alexander Tumakov was offered to get out of prison and become a Wagnerian, and he did. He jumped on the opportunity. He served for 6 months in the front lines, and he was pardoned by Russian President Vladimir Putin. That was part of the deal. So he came back home with a sparkling, clean criminal record. Right after returning from the war, he killed his acquaintance, a mother of 3 children, and burned her body. Tumakov was just sentenced to 7 years in high-security prison. 7 years for murdering an innocent person for the second time. And at the same time, Alexei Gorinov, a municipal deputy from Moscow, called what Russia is doing to Ukraine its real name, war. That's his crime. That's what he did. He called war. For that, he was sentenced to 7 years in high-security prison. He is serving the same term in the same prison as the serial murderer of innocent people. And if there's one thing you need to know about Putin's Russia in 2024, this is it. The next news. The Ministry of Health is proudly reporting that Russia has just set the record of a number of psychiatric diseases. There are 4 million Russian people having psychiatric problems. This is the record, all-time high, and the trend is healthy growth in the future. What about other records? Any? There are no records currently in Russia other than that. The next news is about money. It's all about the money. It's all about dum dum da da dum dum. And I think we got it all wrong anyway. It's no secret that Russian Ministry of Defense is recruiting people. Russians are recruited to the war, and they're given sign-up bonuses, and they're given hefty payments, monthly salaries. The sign-up bonuses started at 100,000 rubles a long time ago, about 18 months ago, and now the record bonus in one of the provinces is 1,650,000 rubles. So the bonuses have increased by 16.5 times. But it seems like it's still not enough to attract enough people, and fewer and fewer people sign up, and they just keep upping the bonus more and more and more. So a new kind of reward system has been introduced. I call it the network marketing sell your friend for a coin bonus. Tatarstan residents are offered a new way to earn a coin or two. To bring a friend who would sign a contract with the Ministry of Defense, and receive 100,000 rubles, around $1,000 for each recruit that signs with the Ministry of Defense. A new government program is advertised. A citizen can persuade any person to sign a contract with the Ministry of Defense, and he or she will be paid up to 100,000 rubles after the departure of a recruit to his unit. The announcement is posted on the website called heroes-tatarstan.ru, created under the authority of DOSAF and the Ministry of Defense. It is distributed through local public sites, websites of regional newspapers, state media, and resources of local administrations. What's interesting is that the bonus rises too, and rises very fast. Back on July 8th, citizens were promised 50,000 rubles per recruit, and the very next day, July 9th, they were promised 100,000 rubles, doubled in one day. Friends, relatives, employees of military enlistment officers, administrations, departments, any departments can apply such payment under the network marketing reward model. An official service agreement will be signed with them. I'm not sure if they're going to pay taxes or not. Probably not. Tax-free. Not bad, huh? Again, I'm so shocked that I have not much to say. What the hell are they doing, you know? Sell your son for $1,000. Yahoo! You know. Where has my country gone to? It's crazy, heartless circus, you know. By the way, there will be many more news coming like that. And if you want to keep up with other breaking news from Russia, become patron of Inside Russia. Every single day, I carefully select and post 9 news that I find important along with my commentaries and analysis. It'll keep you informed on everything you wanted to know about Russia but were afraid to ask. So become patron at patreon.com and get access to all the news that matter. And I'm gonna put the links down below after this stream ends. So at least check it out. The next news is amusing. Really, I promise. Moscow announced plans to create an aerospace club of the BRICS countries. The special representative of the President of Russia for international cooperation in the field of space exploration, Sergei Krikalev, a former astronaut, a good one, during the BRICS International Futurological forum where the people come together and discuss future. Anyway, I'm sorry, I can't say this English word. So futurological. So the forum is called Smart Civilization. So this forum about future of the BRICS countries is called Smart Civilization. So they discuss how for the civilization to become smart and how to explore space together. Well, I have one advice for you folks. Why don't you stop the bloodshed in Ukraine and take all the troops and bring them back to where they're located, you know, where they belong to. And then somehow you can at least start looking into the future that would be called smart civilization. Because right now the civilization is not looking too smart, you know. So anyway, so this guy, the Russian former astronaut Sergei Krikalev, during this forum, Smart Civilization, announced the creation of the BRICS Aerospace Club. designed to bring humanitarian cooperation between the member countries of the association in the aviation and space exploration fields to a new level. Now, I have hard time saying this thing, okay? The goal is to bring humanitarian cooperation. What humanitarian cooperation? Between the member countries of the association in the aviation and space field exploration to a new level. What new level? What exploration? What is this? India is doing anything in the space with Russia? No, it has it actually builds space vehicles that actually fly and land on moon, and Russia cannot do that, despite that Russia was first in space. Brazil, is there any cooperation with on the space field of space with Brazil? Perhaps that was like science fiction writer forum. I don't know, but they call it futurologist forum. Anyway, I have two comments here. The first is that the worse Russia is doing in the field of space exploration, the louder it screams and messages the world. This proposed BRICS Aerospace Club kind of reminds me of BRICS Sports Games 2024. That happened not too long ago. And I want you to check out this picture. I think many of you have seen that. So, yeah, remember that? Where competition was limited to one participant and he won the gold medal, okay? Alexander Maltsev, nice. So this aerospace club kind of reminds me the same thing. That's my first comment. And the second comment is more profound. Sergei Krikalev was one of finest astronauts in Russia, in Soviet Union, and then in Russia. He's really a legend. And not just in Russia. I think he's very known in space industry around the world. He's a legend. And you see what happens when the legendary astronaut goes into politics. Well, BRICS Aerospace Club happens. Astronauts, please, do what you do best. Explore space. Do not go to politics. Or BRICS Aerospace Club would happen. The next news comes from Russia's oil industry. Or I'd rather say about Russia's oil industry. Last week, Russian oil exports collapsed at the record rate since the beginning of the war. Crude oil exports from Russia fell by 27% in the week to July 7th. There hasn't been such a significant drop since Vladimir Putin made the decision to invade Ukraine, according to data from Bloomberg, which tracks the movement of oil tankers, this data I tend to believe. Average daily supplies fell by 1 million barrels compared to the previous week, from 3.66 million to 2.67 million. The reason for that is not clear at this point. It could be a combination of a few things, but I'm looking into it. I will keep my eyes open. As oil exports dropping, it has a potential to become Russia's economy hotspot, and not in a good way. So please keep on tuning in. I'm going to be covering this oil export mystery or event, or I don't know how to call it at this point, in details very soon. The next news is, I know we all love that topic, the Chinese cars, again. And again, the news, comes from the Association of Car Dealers of Russia. Second news of the day. So this association warned Russians about possible problems with the deliveries of cars from China. The deliveries of cars and spare parts from China to Russia may be under threat Again, the good Alexei Podshikoldin, the president of Russian Association of Car Dealers, gave a press conference on this issue. He explained that the reason for possible problems with the imports of Chinese cars is the difficulties with making international payments. The expert admitted that himself has faced similar difficulties. My company has been struggling for 2 months and I'm still trying to clear a payment. That money is not accepted by the Chinese banks and it keep on coming back, he said at an interview. Now, what the good Alexei Podshikoldin warned all Russians about is nothing new. Probably new to those who don't really care about Russian economy, what's happening. There have been problems of that kind with the Chinese banks since February 13th. The Chinese banks have been warned by the USA and they just refuse to work with their Russian counterparts. They're afraid. But we all know that. I've talked about it many times. The same thing is happening with the Turkish banks, by the way. Only much worse. Turkey has been closed off for Russian payments since January 1st. So what this news gives to us, it shows that the trouble is not going away, but growing. And it has started spreading onto different parts of the country, of the economy. And this is very important. Please stay tuned. I will make the entire live stream with explanation how this problem might lead to shortages in Russian stores very soon, as soon as September. The next news shows how Russian government works. The state wants to monopolize migrant workers' labor market. I kid you not. The authorities are discussing how to, I quote, increase and manage hiring of migrant workers. The corresponding federal project has been, and I'm going to tell you just in a second what a federal project in Russia is. So the corresponding federal project has been included into the National Project Personnel. That project was presented by Deputy Prime Minister Tatiana Golikova at a large state government meeting recently held. To me, again, this is a big deal, big news. The state is trying to extend its control onto all areas. That's the ultimate goal. All areas of life in Russia. And the migrant workers, this is the next area. They are next. Right now, there's a certain degree of freedom for employers to hire migrant workers. The employers do it directly, on their terms. Migrant workers receive a permit to work in Russia from Russian government, and they're free to choose their employer. Well, the government doesn't like that, you see. It wants to control that. And it can change the situation to its liking. And I think that's exactly what they're doing. They are planning to create a new national agency. They call it the National Project. They will have a control of all migrant workers. Want to hire a foreigner? Well, go to the government. It will help. It will give you a worker who is brought to Russia by the government. An employer wouldn't have much to say in the process. Get your worker and shut up, and write us reports on how that worker works. It's a win-win for the government, a new agency, headquartered in Moscow most likely, with thousands of new highly paid clerks and power over all employers in Russia, all businesses, those who hire migrant workers. Now, all companies, large or small, want to get more workers over quota, and there will be quota, of course. Well, that can be arranged for a coin, of course. Want better workers? Well, it can be arranged for a coin. Something happened to your worker's accident and you want to cover up? That can be arranged for a coin. Oh, you don't want workers from North Korea? that can be arranged for coin too. And that, my friends, is how Russian government works. Stepping stones, and they just laid the first stone in the foundation. They just presented the new idea for the federal project. Again, this is how a fancy name for an agency, a new agency that will be born. And from now on, they will start on implementing it. They will get financing, they will get plans, they will approve with all government agencies and so forth, you know. And this exactly is how Russian government works. Whew. The next news is Orwellian. Well, most of today's news are kind of Orwellian, you know, really. The Russian Book Union, yes, this such organization in Russia, saw risks in the current version of the draft of a new law called a law on books. So, if the law is adopted, then books by authors writing under pseudonyms, you know, nicknames, or anonymously, and yeah, that happens, will be at risk of orphanhood. Book publishers are asking the senators to allow only those works that were written more than 30 years ago to be recognized as ownersless. So basically, it means that you will have to disclose your data, your personal information, you know, personal data, who you are, and, you know, exactly, and your passport number and all of that to the government if you want to become an author, if you want to publish your book. Because if you don't do that, if you publish under a different name, a nickname, then they will just steal your work, and that will be legal. Earlier, representatives of the media sphere, especially music and cinematography, complained about this new proposed law. In particular, they noted that the proposed measures could be used to legalize the mechanism of compulsory licensing of content of copyright holders who left Russia. Yeah, they're gonna take music and movies of those Russians who live outside Russia and copyright it in Russia, in government's name. Oh, fantastic. Do you see how they work? Every single area of Russian state, every single government agency, every single lawmaker, every single person, they try to put their dirty hands into all areas of life of Russian people. No, it's not about the money, or at least it's not just about the money. They want your personal data. They want to increase control over you. They want to control your life completely. They want you to have no say in anything. Even if you create something and become an owner of your own work, music, movies, you know, books, belongs to the government. Well, it's Putin's Russia for you, 2024. All right, before I move on to the last news, I'd like to ask you a favor. Please select 3 news that you like the most and let me know what they are down below in the comments, right there. Such feedback helps me to finesse my next news selection, make it more interesting for you. And if you have nothing to say, that happens, you know. Just leave me a couple of nice lines, nice words. Say, Konstantin, I really like your work. You know, it's so pleasant to read these things. I do read them, most of them. Unfortunately, I can't answer all of them, but I do read a great deal of comments. So I appreciate that very much. And the last news, it's about price control. Finally, I've been waiting for that moment for such a long time, because I saw it coming. Acting governor of Kaliningrad region, Alexei Besprozvannych, and that's the guy, promised to control food prices. According to the governor, and the information comes from his Telegram channel. So, according to the governor, the main food products in the local shops come from both local producers and suppliers from other regions. Shops' profit margins also play an important role. Well, obviously. The governor promised to straighten control over this particular component, profit margins of shops. The profit margins of the shops, stores, and all who sell food products. Let me quote the good governor. Producers selling directly through their shops have profit margins lower than food chain supermarkets. We will meet with manufacturers, suppliers, and chain store operators to solve the problem together. Unquote. Беспрозванных called on food stores to prioritize goods and products from local producers. Prices for these products produced locally should be with a smaller profit margin. According to the acting governor, the provincial authorities are working to maintain acceptable price for basic food products in most stores. He noted that this is not an easy process, I'm sure it's not, promising to keep informing the population about the results of these activities. This is definitely a popcorn moment. Hallelujah! First, Russian government starts controlling food prices, telling food stores how high of profit margins they should have or how low. Well, it's not about the stores being super greedy. It's not why the prices for food are going up. It's Russian economy is getting hit by the tsunami, the worst one Russia has ever seen in its entire history. The prices are they depend on so many things, including, for example, just to give you a few things, a high key interest rate that Russia's central bank is maintaining, and in a couple days it's going to increase it by 2 points. Or the increase in the prices of transportation, logistics, fertilizers, agricultural machinery, and diesel fuel. The sudden drop in the labor force, the financial international sanctions. And I could go on, and I do in my economy streams. This is the perfect storm. The governor of Kaliningrad will not keep the prices under control. He will fail miserably. The only way you can have normal prices, food prices, or any kinds of prices is when you let market work. You free people and allow them to do business at their will. Market's invisible hand will work to balance supply and demand, and it balances them perfectly out. And the prices will be fair for everyone. And the store shelves will be full of products, and just allow competition. This is your key to lowering prices. Instead, they're trying to regulate. They think they know best. Do you know what will happen in Kaliningrad soon? The governor will force price control, and I'm sure he will. He has enough resources, he has enough power in his gubernatorial hands to force anything on businesses he wants. And he will force price control. And he will punish those who won't comply. And I'm pretty sure he will do that to show the others. And others will comply for very short time. Because after, the business owners will simply start closing down their businesses and saying, you know what? It's not worth it. Sell food yourself, you the good governor. And what will people, regular people who want to buy food every day, what will they get after? That's right, shortages. the deficit, even higher prices and black market. You know, we've been there, and we've done that. At least I lived in the USSR, and I remember perfectly well that country with that economic system, and it sucked. For the good, so food prices are controlled. Food price control is finally here. I've been waiting for this moment for over a year. It was predictable, okay? So I'm having my popcorn right over here and I'm watching. I'm not enjoying, because that's going to be very sad for regular people and their lives are going to get so much harder. But I'm watching. I'm watching the show, so please come along. And I want you to watch how, what was the real reason I returned to Russia after spending 9 years in America was here. I am telling my story. Come and check it out.